Hello everyone, this is CJ with Cycletron. My question for you today is what makes a motorcycle obsolete? Is it when it's too old? Apparently a motorcycle that is somewhere between 10 or 15-year-old range is considered pretty much used up, or it has over 40 or 50,000 miles on it. If it's a sports bike, it may be only 20 to 25,000 miles before no one else wants to buy it. This would probably be equivalent to a car with over 200,000 miles that no one wants to buy. It could be that if it's a motorcycle known for having a lot of high-tech features on it, it might be considered obsolete after the latest model update hit the dealer showrooms. Gene Clark commented on one of my recent videos that he knew somebody that was trying to sell a BMW motorcycle that wasn't really that old, but since it didn't have the most up-to-date technology on it, he was having a hard time selling it. Typically, a person who would buy a BMW motorcycle is interested in having the latest and greatest features and are mostly interested in buying a brand new BMW motorcycle and not a used one. So you might find that your bike is rather obsolete just because the market for selling it to someone else is pretty thin. I could also see where, say, a Ducati or maybe even a BMW that's out of warranty might be fairly expensive to get repaired at the dealership. So for that reason, people might be disinclined to hold on to a used bike for fear that the repair bills are going to be excessive. At this point, I have several motorcycles that would be considered obsolete. For example, my 1982 Yamaha Virago would be considered obsolete. We got that bike a few years ago with only 12,000 miles on it, and we put about 4,000 miles on it so far after getting it in good running order. But I can tell you why it would be considered obsolete. First of all, I can't get any dealership to work on it now. I have to get an independent shop to work on it or do the work myself. It's very difficult to find parts for it nowadays, but it's still a good functional motorcycle. I typically just ride it around town, but I definitely wouldn't take it on a long road trip unless I was just looking for a certain kind of adventure and was wondering if I could actually complete a long distance trip on a bike that's 40 years old. But a bike like that has its advantages. It only costs me $100 a year to insure and $7 a year to license. When I was a kid, it seemed that just about everyone I knew bought only used cars and drove them for a long time. In fact, a lot of people I knew, including me, had cars that were pretty well rusted out or had a lot of cosmetic and mechanical issues. But there's been a lot of things that have changed over the years. It's very difficult to work on your own car nowadays, especially with all the electronics. I think the same is true with motorcycles, as the increasing amount of electronics is making it harder and harder for an individual owner to work on their own bikes. Also, a lot of motorcycle dealerships won't work on a bike that's older than, say, 20 years old, and many of them won't work on a bike if it's over 10 years old. It's mostly because they don't want to deal with the issues of what happens if you get an old bike in and you find out you need to repair things that you didn't expect, or can't find parts, or it's going to cost more to fix the bike than it's actually worth. Or the bill comes in and people have decided, well, I shouldn't have done that. It's not making much economic sense, so they might have a hard time collecting the repair fee from the motorcycle owner. I talked to an independent motorcycle repair shop owner recently, and he said he's had issues with some people trying to stiff him on repair bills under those circumstances. Until the recent supply chain issues associated with new vehicles came along, it seemed like people were buying new cars on a more frequent basis than in the past. Right now, the average age of a used car is 12 years in the United States. In Japan, the average age of a used car is only 8 years. In fact, Japan has a law that makes it very onerous to maintain an older vehicle for legal road use because they have really stringent inspection laws. These inspection requirements are expensive and often are associated with high repair bills. As a result, people are typically only wanting to keep a car for a handful of years after buying it new. Also, another factor is that Japanese society places a premium on having the latest technology in their lives, including with their vehicles. This is true in the United States as well, although not to the same degree. This creates consumer behavior where people are wanting to get new motorcycles or new cars due to very small incremental changes in the features, looks, or performance capability of those vehicles. Let's look at another example. I have a Yamaha 2005 YZF 600R that I bought at a salvage auction, and we restored it. It was salvaged because the fairing was busted up when somebody dropped it. We restored it and the bike runs great. It's probably one of the quickest bikes I own. It'll do 0 to 60 in about 2.9 seconds, and it's very fast as well with a top speed of about 180 miles an hour. But by just about any definition, it's considered obsolete. It's got 32,000 miles on it, which is a lot for a sport bike. It's over 16 years old, and it doesn't have any electronics on it, but it's a fantastic bike to ride. And it's turned out to be really reliable and has over a 200-mile fuel range. It used to be that one of the things that kept resale values so high for Harley Davidson motorcycles was that they didn't change much from year to year. I did a video last year pointing out how much Harley resale prices were dropping rapidly, such that resale values were really in line with the rapid rate of depreciation for just about any other brand of motorcycle. I think it was a shock to some people because they thought that their Harleys were going to be worth quite a bit more money even after owning them for several years. Although the used bike prices during the last couple of years are an anomaly, certainly with the run-up in used car and motorcycle prices, but we'll see what happens when the dust settles here in 2 or 3 years. So let me ask you all out there, have you thought whether your motorcycle would be considered obsolete? I suppose the answer to that question would depend on what it would take for you to buy a new motorcycle. Would it be a different class of motorcycle, like going from a traditional American V-twin touring bike to an adventure touring bike? Or would it be because you're done with a certain brand and you want to try another brand of motorcycle, like the people who are switching from Harley to Indian, as I've heard in the comments section of my videos? Is it because you're wanting to get a bike with more performance? Could it be that you're a younger rider and you're stepping up to a bigger motorcycle or something that has greater performance? Or you're looking for something that will take you across the country in comfort, as most of your riding until now has been done in town? The fact is that motorcycles today are better than ever with fantastic performance, looks, and just better overall functionality and safety features. In fact, in many ways, motorcycles are better now than they've ever been at any time in history, with the possible exception of affordability. But even there, if you look at several different models by various manufacturers, take their price and adjust it for inflation, motorcycles today are really cheaper than they were in the past. I think that the affordability issue comes down to mainly that manufacturers could make much cheaper motorcycles, or at least offer some lower cost models, but they choose not to so they could load them up with high profit features and accessories in most cases. So you'd think there'd be a load of cheap used bikes out there. That's not quite the case right now, but it may be soon. So what happens if most people out there who want to buy a new bike are in the same situation and they only want a new bike with the latest and greatest features? Where do all the so-called obsolete motorcycles go? Please let me know what you think in the comments section, and thanks for watching.